waving at the camera like the audience can see me.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they can.
Most unlikely of villains, schools of pain and for pause. Does it talk? Does it know how? Does it bottle? Does it meow? In the lair of the cerebral bore, and I'll show him so much more. When you go brains at the door.
Welcome back to Cerebrivore. My name is Jason. I host the Nerds RPG Variety Cast. I have two other panelists with me today. I have BJ, who does the Arcane Alienist. How you doing today, BJ?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. And I have Joe, who does Hindsightless. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm doing really good, Jason. How about you?
Pretty good, pretty good. And today we're going to talk about campaigns we would like to run. So we're just, there's kind of a little bonus episode to put it amongst the meatier episodes of the podcast. Last week you got to hear about sports and RPGs. Today we're going to talk about campaigns we'd like to run. Next week, who knows what we're going to talk about, but it'll be something. So who wants to go first?
Just to clarify, it's November, so we're talking about role-playing campaigns, not running for office, right?
Oh, that's a good point. Yes, there's a tabletop role-playing podcast. Yes, that is accurate. I mean, if you want to talk about a campaign you want to run for local office, you definitely could. Although at that point, yeah, we might need to file some paperwork first.
Yeah.
But no. Actually, yeah, this is being recorded in November, but this will actually be aired on the 2nd of December. So.
Okay. Well, BJ, do you want to go first?
Wow. I've been thinking about this for a little bit. The thing that struck me, I don't know if this is so much a campaign I want to run or if it's a campaign I would like to play in just for a change of pace, but I think I would really enjoy a campaign that is not based in science fiction or fantasy. Just whether it's a noir detective investigation or a Western, or I think just for a change of pace, I wouldn't mind doing something that was just more or less real world based, without getting into any kind of weird fiction or sci-fi horror or anything like that. So,
nice.
Yeah.
What about spy stuff? Would that count?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some top secret.
Yeah. So it's not. I don't really have a specific concept. It just kind of occurred to me today as I was trying to think about what we talk about for this episode. That would be something that might be a little palate cleanser because it doesn't have to be as high concept or as. No, I feel like there's a lot that there's an added layer when you're in the kind of the realm of speculative fiction, whether it's sci-fi, horror, fantasy, where you've got to manage these unreal elements of whatever's going on. And if you're just doing a straight up murder mystery or spy or something like that, it might be lend itself to some simpler rules, some more straightforward ways of doing things. I think the challenge there is you've got to have players who are on board for something like that. I think a Western isn't that much different from D&D, really, when you think about how most D&D games go. But if you want to do like a spy or a detective thing, people got to be in the mood for solving mysteries and looking for clues, and it's a different kind of game than sort of a kicking the door and kill the monsters and take their stuff kind of stuff game.
Yeah.
Blades in the Dark, I've been wanting to try Blades in the Dark. That might be an interesting. I know that's more of a heist. It's ostensibly it's still like a fantasy setting, but I haven't had a chance to try it out yet. Have either of you guys got to play Blades in the Dark?
I haven't, no, but it seems cool.
Yeah, I have not. But no, it's definitely an interesting idea. I mean, I actually get to play Boot Hill every now and then with Daniel Norton, and then I played with other folks, and I enjoy Boot Hill quite a bit, and think Boot Hill's a great way to do a palate cleanser, because the tropes are just so like you mentioned that the access is there for everybody. It's such a low bar of access because everybody knows basic Western tropes and basic cowboy stuff, and you don't have to be deep into it to get the basics of it. Where if you're trying to run a noir game, I've been talking about that during November over my show, and some of the games designed for noir games on my system Sundays, and they really adjust the mechanics to try to emulate that genre because you have really certain things you're trying to do in that genre. Now, if you're just trying to do a regular real world mystery, or maybe you do like a CSI game or a cop game, and if you did something like that, that'd be a little bit lower barrier of entry, right?
Yeah.
So I think it just depends what you're, or you could do. Well, so I guess my question for you though, BJ, and we'll throw it to Joe too, but my question for you is, I wonder if fantasy though, using fantasy or sci-fi or even horror, it opens up to give you a little more leeway. Where do you worry about, like in a real world game? And I honestly haven't had this problem with running like Boot Hill, but do you worry about in a real world game having a higher expectation of players to emulate the real world, having a higher expectation of law and order being correctly administered and whatever the idea of the shenanigans the players can get to, not having as much leeway, that kind of thing.
You have somebody playing in your game who's an actual software engineer, and they're going, "No, that's not how you hack a computer." Shut up, man! Shut up.
But like, yeah, I would find it, like, for me playing in like the modern stuff, it's harder because like you were just talking about characters thinking more along the lines of Law and Order, Jason, like in consequences and stuff. But a lot of times, especially with like some of the players I play with, they, even if they're playing in like a modern game, they'll do some crazy stuff, and it's like, well, shit, now what? Now are the cops after you? Like, is that where this game is going to have to go now? So that's one of the problems I have with running in like modern world. I feel a little handcuffed by the law sometimes.
Or the fact that, if it's set in roughly the modern era, they're leaving their DNA and their fingerprints everywhere they go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
They're not going to call in a CSI if you stole $50 from a convenience store. But if you get up the kind of stuff that role-playing game characters tend to get up to, yeah, they're probably going to be dusting for prints and reviewing video surveillance footage and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you could do it. I don't mean to.
Right.
I'm definitely not down on the idea. I think you have a lot of fun with it, and I'd love to, break Top Secret out again and run Top Secret again. Their original 1980 game, or Mercenary Spies and Private Eyes, or even James Bond 007. That's a great game. But I think all those kind of, and you had the weighted fingerprints and all that stuff back then too. But all those are kind of firmly set in the 80s. And honestly, I would run them in the 80s.
Right.
To be honest, because it just feels right to me. When you talk about Cold War espionage stuff, I mean, it just, the 80s feels right, But no, I think of doing a palate cleanser, my default would be the Western, but there are a lot of other ones you can do out there. I think. So, BJ, I know you've run a lot of games over the years, and you've kind of alluded to some of them, but you definitely haven't talked about all of them. Have you had a chance to run many mysteries? You have any tips for other GMs that are listening as far as running mysteries?
I think when I've tried mysteries, of course, I've always ran them in the concept of D&D or a fantasy game, or not in kind of a real world setting. And it's probably some of the best advice you get is the idea that led to Gumshoe, which is, you get up in your head, you've created this interesting mystery, and you've obscured the facts enough, and you think, oh, they're going to catch on. And sometimes you can throw a cue. It's like a slow pitch right over the plate, and players just aren't going to see it. And it's not their fault. It's not because they're stupid or they're not paying attention. It's just what you think is clear in your head is clear to you because it's your idea and you came up with it. Or if you're running a pre-written module, you've read through it and you know what's going on behind the scenes. So I think the idea of don't give it away, but just give the clues. It's up to the players to discuss the clues, how relevant it is to make interpret the meanings of the clues, but just don't put vital clues behind a die roll where they could fail to not pick it up. I mean, you know, and then also potentially always have, you know, if you get 3 clues, you can probably figure out the mystery. So there's going to be 6 clues hidden around the area, just in case you decide not to go into room A or room B. Otherwise, you've got, instead of quantum ogres, you've got quantum clues. Oh crap, that was supposed to be in the library. Now I got to put it in the garage. You know,
Right. Yeah. The other thing I know people talked about is doing your quantum murderer, where, because the PCs tend to, a lot of times players will pick up one thing and they'll run with it. Yeah, no matter how much you try to dissuade them, they're convinced that Joe the bartender is the killer, even though you only gave him a funny voice because you felt like at that moment, but he was a nobody in the scenario, right? So maybe, and the problem is if Joe the bartender doesn't end up being the killer, it might let down the players.
Yeah.
But if they find out you're doing a quantum murder by making Joe the bad guy, because that's what they so there's that balancing point. And I guess if you decide to do that, to switch it up, just maybe not mention it to your players. Just, oh yeah, you got it. Good job.
Totally, man.
That happened not in a mystery, but when I ran Traveler a few years ago, and there's this NPC who's just a noble in the Traveler setting, has nobility, and her whole purpose there is to be the quest giver, the person that hires them and gives them missions. And one player had generated a character who was a minor noble who kind of was on the outs with nobility and didn't like nobles. So he's just role playing his character, correctly, quote unquote, that he doesn't like this person. Well, everybody else just assumes they're not supposed to like this person. And before I know it, I have to go, time out. Why are you guys so paranoid about this NPC who's only, I mean, you've done like 3 missions and gotten paid. What are you, what's the distance, but they were just every little thing, every little quirk, every little,
That's awesome.
got interpreted through this lens of she's out to get us.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. I love that.
Yeah, definitely. So, Joe, do you have a dream campaign?
It's I got like a million dream campaigns, but one that I've wanted to run for a long time. It's kind of funny that it's one that I wanted to run for a long time, because I also talk about how much I hate this thing. Not that I hate it, that I'm just tired of it. I want to run like a survival horror game, starting with a fairly infamous OSR module, because that module can basically kick off this crazy undead apocalypse. I want to run an undead apocalypse game. That's what I want to run.
Well, luckily for you, Free League is coming out with they're going to have a Kickstarter for the Walking Dead role-playing game.
It could be out at this time by the time this episode drops, and I could not care any less about that. Yeah, I just think it would be fun, man. I want to start it off with this particular module, see what happens there, and then everyone will probably die, and then start it from like the village down at the bottom and just be like, here's what's going on, what do you guys do, run, and take it from there. And right, I think this would be really fun.
Is this a fantasy setting though? Is this so because you're talking to us?
It's a fantasy setting. Yeah. It'd be a fantasy setting for sure. Like, it wouldn't just be a zombie apocalypse. It would be a zombie apocalypse spurred on by like a crazy Dracolich who's got a bunch of vampire like generals and shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that'd be a fun campaign.
I think it would be, and one of these days I really want to run it. Yeah, one of these days we'll see, because I've been thinking about this for years. I have a memory. Here's one of those weird, stupid Mandela effect things. I have a distinct memory in my mind of running my friends through this particular module, and they don't have it. None of them have it. None of them remember playing it before. And I swear to God, we played it. It's weird.
Yeah. No, I get that when you say I said things that I don't remember saying.
I'm actually surprised there has not been a iconic zombie apocalypse D&D module. I mean, there's certainly like Ravenloft and other ones that
No,
incorporate the undead, but just
They're out there.
there's one that came out for like second or third edition called the Apocalypse Stone. And it's billed as like the campaign to end your world, basically. And it's gnarly. I've watched reviews on it. I've never actually read it myself, but I've watched reviews on it, and it just sounds insane.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen undead and kind of the game of undead apocalypses in some, maybe not official, but third-party products, things like that. But yeah, the ones I'm familiar with aren't necessarily D&D related. I mean, there are plenty of zombie games out there.
Right.
The forthcoming Walking Dead notwithstanding, of course, maybe the most infamous, and not in a bad way, because it's actually a good game, is the All Flesh Must Be Eaten, right? That's a all things zombie. They have a bunch of genre books from fantasy to martial arts to you name it, and you can emulate all kinds of different zombies in there. So, nice. I mean, that's maybe the king of the zombie games, I guess, as far as
Kung Fu zombie, like a 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Kung Fu zombie exploitation movie would be awesome.
Right, and you can do that with All Flesh Must Be Eaten. They have a source book just for that.
Nice. That would be fun. But yeah, so that it'd be set during winter, which is why it's appropriate that we're talking about this now, since this is coming out in December. Right. It would take place over time. Yeah, man, I think it would be fun. And I really want to do it one day.
That would be very cool.
What about you, sir, Jason?
Of course, I always have different things in the back of my head I want to run. I'm finally getting to, by the time this episode comes out, hopefully, knock on wood, we'll have the first session of Palladium Fantasy game, wrapped up. So that'll be good. So we're finally getting that to the table. But I think now as I've slowly gotten more in Palladium, thanks to a couple different podcasts that I've been listening to lately, primarily the Glitter Boys and Real Play Games podcasts. But I would really like to run After the Bomb, I think. And After the Bomb so it's not riffs. I've got Savage Riffs. I've run single shots of that and whatnot, but After the Bomb is a anamorphic animal kind of thing where you're all playing, mutated animals. It was a spin-off of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Originally, it was a supplement for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness, and then when they lost that license, they turned it into its own game. But it's not a downtrodden apocalypse. There's hope in it because the animals are rebuilding civilization, you have nations and all that. So it's not. I mean, you have bad guys, you have evil empire humanity that's there, that's trying to kill all the mutant animals and all that kind of thing. But that said, it's generally more of a brighter outlook on the apocalypse, more of a fun kind of thing. And I think that would be nice, as opposed to a lot of these post-apocalyptic games are just really downers.
Yeah.
And at some point, you don't want to play in a real downer. Now, and I think that'd be my biggest barrier to a zombie. I would definitely play in a zombie game or like the undead taking over the world game. But I think a straight up zombie game, like a Romero zombie game, like The Walking Dead, like it'd be interesting for a little while, but I think it would depend though. Cause I mean, zombies in The Walking Dead are an environmental hazard, right? They're not really the bad guys. They're just something to deal with while you're dealing with the other humans.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, but I think the zombie thing's a little depressing eventually. So I that's why I kind of don't look to that for my post-apocalyptic kind of game.
That's why I'd want to run it in a fantasy world where there's some way to fight back against it. Like it's not a disease. It's like an evil lich raising a bunch of zombies. You kill that lich and there go all the zombies.
Mm-hmm. Well,
like it's not as depressing,
right? And I guess that is a like I say, a big plus for where I was talking about All Flesh Must Be Eaten, because when you look at some of their source books out there, you have All Tomorrow Zombies, which is spaceship cyberpunk stuff. You have Atlas of the Walking Dead, where you get all the different kinds, like the Chinese hopping vampires and
Yeah.
Aztec mummies. You have Dungeons and Zombies, which is classic fantasy. Enter the Zombie, which is the martial arts one I was talking about. Fistful of Zombies, where it's Weird West. Pulp Zombies. Are There Be Zombies, which is pirate. Zombie Smackdown, so you can have like Mortal
Wrestling.
Kombat or wrestling. So I mean, once you throw in all that kind of crazy stuff, you can definitely have fun with it. But if
Yeah.
it's just the Night of the Living Dead, and you do that for
Right.
a 2-year campaign, that I'm not saying it couldn't be fun, but I think it would be I don't know. It would take the right GM and the right group, I think.
Yeah. What do you think, BJ?
I think, I think, and this is just me. I can only handle grimdark and stuff like that in chunks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind playing it routinely, but it's like at some point we need to, I want to play something silly. I want to play something heroic. I want to play something more. There's a chance that the good guys can win, kind of thing. And so I'd be down for that, for a while, and then I'd want to try something else and maybe go back to it. I think that's one of those things where maybe you have to do a little meta and say, okay, is this a true zombie apocalypse game where we're just going to see how long we can make? It's like Cthulhu. We're going to see how long we can make it till everybody's dead, or out of the game, or is this really like a World War Z kind of situation where there's a solution coming and it's where we're going to figure out, do we make it to the end to be part of the solution, and how do we sort of uncover the secret of what's causing this? So how can we combat it? How can we contain it? Those kinds of things. So I think that may be kind of a session zero thing to say, well, what's everybody want out of a game like this? Are we going to save the world, or is this just sort of a dark humor? We're all going to be dead tomorrow kind of a thing.
Save the cheerleaders, save the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you could have a lot of fun with doing it, but I think there's pluses to doing what Joe's talking about and do it in the fantasy world, because it really, it opens up some hope. But because now you have Marvel zombies, and DC has done their thing in DC Comics of zombies.
DCeased.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, the DCeased. And yeah, it just gets to the point where it's, I don't know.
Go ahead, Peter.
Vampires are coming back because everybody's getting tired of zombies.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
We were oversaturated with vampires in the 90s. Then they switched to zombies, and now I think it's kind of run its course. But as far as a game goes, if it's an interesting game, it doesn't matter whether it's part of the zeitgeist or not. It's a good game with good players is always fun, no matter what.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was just talking about this on Twitter, actually, about how I think the zombie apocalypse is like the easiest apocalypse to survive. Which is why it's funny that I want to run a game that starts with a zombie apocalypse as a survival horror game.
Yeah, when it's not magical, yeah, you're like, well, okay, we'll change our burial customs. You cremate everybody, or at least behead them. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, totally. And you just shoot all the zombies, or drop a friggin' bunker buster bomb on a whole horde of zombies, and they're all dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about Romero zombies that are fast, or not I guess I'm trying to remember, those aren't.
No, Romero zombies are slow. You're thinking of like 28 days later, or
yeah.
Or Garden of the Dead, where they're the formaldehyde zombies. Those were fast zombies. Nobody's seen that. That's
where they can they're more like ghouls,
Yeah. But yeah, it depends on the version of zombies. Of course, fast zombies are the the popular thing now, right?
Right.
In the horror movies.
I can't remember what this pops up sometimes as remember this on Facebook because I posted it was so funny. My son had to have been 4, and I don't remember what we were talking about, and I didn't even realize that he knew what a zombie was. He was like, do zombies? He asked something about their dead. Did they have a heartbeat? And I'm like, no, their heart wouldn't beat. And he goes, well, what happens to all their blood? And I was like, well, I guess it pools down in their legs and feet because it can't be circulated. He says, oh, well, I guess that's why they move so slow.
But I mean that. So that's the problem with zombies too. It I mean I guess 28 Days Later tries to address that because they're not really the undead, right? They have the rage virus or whatever.
Right.
But so you can go and if you go with that, you can go with it. But I mean like the Romero zombie or their Fulci zombie, your traditional zombie that's rising out from the ground. Your physics don't really apply to them, right? Per se.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I definitely think it could be a fun game. I don't think it's a real world concern, but yeah, it could definitely be interesting. So the Apocalypse Stone is a 2E campaign or 2E. Yeah, it's 2E, and it is available either PDF or print on demand on Drive Through RPG.
Yeah, it's gnarly, dude. It's totally gnarly.
Yeah, it is out there. So this show is going to come out on December 2nd. So we'll be getting into Christmas. So I guess the other question would be, for Christmas, are there any? I'm sure there are, but is there any one Christmas movie that you think everybody should see before Christmas, or do you have any gaming plans for Christmas? So I'll give you an out.
One Christmas movie everybody should see. Huh.
I mean, everybody has seen all of the Christmas movies, I bet. Everybody's seen Die Hard. Everybody's seen Gremlins.
We have the Christmas movie Christmas that just dropped this week, which is the follow-up to the Christmas movie where Ralphie's an adult. It's on HBO. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, I talked to somebody that watched it that wasn't impressed with it, but I have not seen it, so I'm sure I'll watch it.
Yeah.
It's on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Okay, my roommate needs to see that.
Yeah, there's there's plenty of Christmas horror movies out there. Of course, there's a new one coming out.
Oh yeah, there's that new
Violent
one coming
Night.
out. Yeah, which is basically like Die Hard, but instead of Bruce Willis, it's Santa Claus.
Right, and David Harbour, who played the sheriff in Stranger Things, is and he was Hellboy in the last Hellboy movie is Santa Claus in it.
Okay.
So I think that's going to be a theater movie though.
Yeah.
You're the movie buff, Jason. What do you suggest?
Well, it just really depends on people's tastes, right?
Yeah.
So the problem is my tastes probably aren't going to gel as well as everybody else's tastes. But what I'm trying to remember the name of it. So Rare Exports. Have either of you seen that?
No.
So Rare Exports of Christmas Tales, an interesting little movie. And so this comes out in Finland or Norway. I forget which I think it's it's it lists Finland and Norway both as distributors here. So I'm not Finnish fantasy action horror film, but I mean it's not a horror film like a scary film. But Rare Exports is a neat little Finnish film where Santa Claus turns out to be, well, I don't want to spoil exactly what it is, but check out Rare Exports. Rare Exports is interesting. It's a kid's adventure film. You're kind of following the point of view from a kid.
Okay.
Isn't everybody's cup of tea, but it's pretty good. It's actually a pretty fun little film.
Where can one find such a film?
That is a good question. Let's see if the internet can tell me.
Is it on any of the streaming? While Jason looks for that, BJ, what about you? Do you have any favorite Christmas movies or anything?
Favorite Christmas movie? Oh, we gotta have a list that we have to watch every Christmas.
Yeah.
In my house, but it involves having a kid. So, Nightmare Before. We always have to watch Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
We always have to watch Elf.
Nice.
And then the Muppets. If nothing else, watch the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
It's got the classic Muppet sight gags and humor.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, I love the fact that in that one, Michael Caine does not. He plays Scrooge to the hilt without acting as though he's in a Muppet movie. He just.
Yeah, he's just acting his ass off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Gremlins Gremlins is a good
Mhm.
Christmas
And
horror movie.
Scrooged with Bill Murray is a really good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, they're redoing that effectively with this new movie with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds. It's going to be on Apple TV.
Okay.
Yeah, I forget what that's called, but that's out this
Mm.
year.
The first Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie.
Did you?
I mean, I don't know if it is a Christmas. I guess if Die Hard's a Christmas movie, first Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie.
Well, I mean, they're a lot. I mean, so is Cobra. Cobra's Christmas movie, but by that criteria, it happens during Christmas as well. But,
Oh, with Sly Stallone.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to add that to my Christmas list.
I don't know, Jason, you probably know this. I don't know if you know, Joe, but Cobra. So from what I understand, they offered the part. Beverly Hills Cop was originally offered to Sylvester Stallone. He's like, I'm not going. This idea of an action comedy was still not really a thing yet.
Right.
And he was like, I'm not going to do this. This is too silly. And he passed on it, and then it launched Eddie Murphy into the stratosphere.
I can't see Sly pulling off.
And so Cobra was his effort to rework that same premise, and it turned into Cobra, which isn't a comedy, but
no. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Jason, did you find where to find that movie?
So Rare Exports is available on a number of channels. It's on Amazon Prime here in the U.S.
Ooh,
of course, I can't speak to other countries. You can see it on Pluto TV. You can see it on Tubi. You can see it on there. Yeah, it's on a number of channels.
Nice.
So
is it dubbed or subtitled?
The version I watched, that I haven't seen it for a few years. The version I watched was dubbed, but I think they have. You can get it. You can also watch it with the original finish with subtitles. Maybe not on Amazon, but it's out there. You know, with the original language as well.
Yeah,
but it is dubbed.
Check that out.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun flick. It's a little bit different. So of course there are tons and tons of great Christmas horror movies, but we don't need to go down that road today. But I appreciate you guys coming on. Do you have anything to plug before we get off today?
No, I don't.
Okay. BJ, anything you want to plug?
Nothing in particular. No.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
It's been
There
a
we
few
are.
weeks since I did an episode. I got an idea for one. Maybe I'll get it out this week.
There we go. So go listen to the episode that of Arcane Aliens that came out before this show comes out.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Go check that out. That'll be good.
Yeah. So that should already be there in your podcast feeds, folks. Okay. Well, I think we'll wrap this one up today. This is just a little bonus episode. We try to give you guys something every week. We might not have a big episode every week, but we try to do something. We will be back next week. If you have any thoughts on what we've talked about today, if you have any dream campaigns you want to run, or if there are any Christmas movies you feel that everyone must see, lost Christmas classics that people aren't aware of, you can reach out to us. We have go to the show notes. There's all the ways to reach out. You can go to the Anchor web page and leave a message there. You can go to our SpeakPipe account. You can send an email. You can go to the YouTube video and leave a comment in the comment section of the YouTube video. So there's lots of ways to leave us a message, and we'll happily play it and respond to it. So I think with that, I'm going to say adieu. Everybody take care, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Later.
A Nerd Central broadcast, Cerebral podcast. Let's savor all the flavors from the Simon Hemstraw. The All-Stars and Pods past, Cerebral podcast. You're counting down your last as you admire them all. Some things brain teeth, or escaping your brain. What I mean is this machine's a freak, and from what I understand, don't look now, this people is coming, and all that's left is the crying and the running. You can bring it, you can hide, I'll think about in any order. Just another brain of people tossers running for the border. Just a snack like a one, can I stutter? Here and here, it's always bread and butter. You can eat on a billion, and it's just never say it. It's savoring the flavor of the memories it created.